Imagine you're playing a video game. A classic first-person shooter. You're running down a hallway, weapon in hand, and you see an enemy player way off in the distance.
Right.
To you, on your screen, that enemy is right there, right now. But if you were to ask the server, the computer actually running the game, it would tell you a very different story. It knows that player is lagging.
The classic lag problem. What you see isn't necessarily what is.
Exactly. Now, hold that thought. What if I told you that for the last 100 years, physics, specifically Einstein's physics, has been stuck in that gamer's perspective? That we've mistaken the lag on our screen for, well, the actual geometry of the universe.
It sounds like a sci-fi plot or some kind of simulation theory pitch, but it's actually a much more grounded and honestly a much more controversial argument about basic mechanics.
Today, we are doing something a little bit dangerous. We're unpacking what's called a unified report, based on the writings of sources going by the handles Adonjak and Zionad 2023.
And their premise is, it's simple but kind of world-shattering.
It is. They say we've been using the wrong map. We've been reading the universe like a fighter pilot reads a radar screen, and we've confused that survival tool for reality.
And just to set the stakes here, these sources aren't saying the math of relativity is wrong, in terms of your GPS working.
Right.
They're saying the interpretation of why it works is backwards. It's a debate about cartography, not just calculus.
I love that distinction. We're cartographers today. The central metaphor anchoring this whole deep dive is this concept of the three maps, or maybe the three selves. You have a prosecutor, a pilot, and a judge.
Right. Think of them as three different personalities or cognitive frameworks for seeing how the world works.
Let's start with the prosecutor. When I hear prosecutor, I think rigid, letter of the law, no wiggle room. Who is this guy in the world of physics?
The prosecutor is the classical Newtonian view. Think, 19th century. And the prosecutor is holding a map that looks like a standard Mercator projection.
Okay, the one on the classroom wall where Greenland is the size of Africa and everything's a nice square grid.
Exactly. North is always north. The grid lines are straight. If I drop a ball, it lands on coordinates X and Y. The defining trait of the prosecutor is what the source calls grid absolutism. He believes space is a static box.
But there's a fatal flaw.
A huge one. The prosecutor views the world as a design plan.
A design plan? Like a blueprint for a house.
Precisely. When you look at a blueprint, you see the kitchen and the living room at the same time. There's no time delay. Information is instantaneous. The prosecutor just assumes light travels at infinite speed.
So he's ignoring the lag. He thinks if the sun exploded, we'd know about it right this second.
Exactly. And more importantly, he forgets that the grid itself is moving. The sources use this analogy of a train. The prosecutor is standing on a train going 100 miles an hour, but he treats the floor of the train as a fixed, unmoving square.
He's ignoring the motion of the ship he's on.
He is.
So that's the classical flaw, treating a moving spaceship Earth like a stationary blueprint. So history moves on, we realize light has a speed limit, and we need a new map. Enter the second character, the pilot.
This is where things get really, really interesting. This is the Einsteinian view. The imaginary world.
And the pilot isn't using a wall map.
No, the pilot is using a radar screen, specifically what's called an azimuthal equidistant projection.
That is a mouthful. Break that down for us.
Just picture a radar in a fighter jet cockpit. You are the glowing dot in the center, the absolute center, and everything else just spins around you.
Okay, that's intuitive enough. It's a me-centered map.
It's self-absolutism, and this is the key insight from the source. This map is designed for survival, not for truth. If you're that pilot, you don't care about the longitude and latitude of an enemy plane in some cosmic grid.
No.
You care about one thing: how long until that blip hits me?
Right. It's a user interface. It's practical. I don't care where the missile is globally. I care where it is relative to my nose.
But to make that interface work, to keep you safe, the map has to distort reality. On a flat radar screen, the continents at the edges look all stretched out. Australia looks like a pancake because you're projecting a sphere onto a flat circle centered on yourself.
Because you're trying to smash a round world onto a flat screen centered on you.
Exactly. And the source argues that special relativity is just the mathematical version of this radar screen. To keep the speed of light constant relative to you, the theory has to warp everything else. It stretches space and it dilates time.
Wait, I want to make sure I really get this. Are you saying time dilation, the idea that time literally slows down when you move fast, is just a distortion? Like Australia looking like a pancake?
That is the argument.
Right.
The pilot looks at his radar and says, wow, the world is warping. But the world isn't warping. His view is warping because he insists on being the stationary center of his universe.
He's confusing the monitor screen with the physical territory.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it.
That's a lot to process.
Yeah.
So Einstein isn't describing the universe, he's describing the view from the cockpit.
Correct. Which brings us to our third character, the one who supposedly sees the truth. The judge.
The judge. And this is the perspective our sources, Xionad 2023 and Addon Jack, are pushing for. So what map does the judge use?
The judge uses the globe, the 3D reality. But here's the kicker. The judge knows he can't trust the radar screen. He knows the screen has lag, so he uses something called inverse calculation.
Inverse calculation. That sounds like detective work.
It is. The judge says, okay, I see a blip on my screen here, but I know light took time to reach me, and I know I'm moving, so where was that object actually when it sent out that signal?
He works backward from the visual lie to find the physical truth.
Yes. The source calls this system absolutism. There is no me at the center. Everyone, atoms, observers, light is just swimming through a court, which is the electromagnetic field. The judge doesn't just look. He calculates the delay to find the real position.
It seems like the fundamental difference here is all about how we handle time. The prosecutor ignores it, the pilot lets it warp his reality, the judge just calculates it out.
That is a brilliant way to summarize it. And the sources use a specific analogy to show how this messes everything up. They call it the first-person shooter mistake.
Right, back to the video game.
In an FPS game, you have a z-axis. Depth. Things are far away. But in physics, far away really just means in the past.
Because of the time it takes for light to get here.
So when you look at a screen, you aren't really looking at a flat image. You're looking into a tunnel of time. The enemy far away is deep in the past. Your gun right in front of your face is the recent past.
It's a collage of times.
But we treat it like a flat picture. We treat the visual field as if it's all happening now. The source argues that we have mistaken depth of time for spatial distance.
There's a thought experiment in the notes that really made this click for me, the train and shoe scenario. It sounds ridiculous, but it completely upended how I visualize this.
It's a classic setup, but the source gives a twist to expose the flaw.
So walk me through this. I'm on a train, super fast train, let's say 20% the speed of light. I look down at my shoe.
Okay, so switch into pilot mode. That's Einstein mode. You look down. Where's your shoe?
It's on my foot, directly below my eyes, a straight line down.
That is what you see. That is the pilot's reality. But now switch to judge mode, objective reality.
Okay.
Light takes time to travel from your shoe to your eye. It's a tiny, tiny fraction of a nanosecond, but it's real. In that tiny fraction of time, what did the train do?
It moved forward.
Exactly. So the light left your shoe, and while that light was traveling up towards your face, your eye moved forward with the train. The light didn't go straight up relative to the tracks. It went diagonally.
Okay, I follow that. The light path is diagonal.
Yeah.
But here's the weird part. If the train moved forward while the light was traveling, then the place where my shoe was when it sent the light is it behind me?
Bingo. Physically, geographically, the shoe that emitted that photon is meters behind you in space. You are looking at a ghost of your shoe.
That is deeply unsettling.
And now imagine you're very tall, or the train is very fast. The ghost shoe you see lags further and further behind the real shoe that's actually attached to your foot.
But my brain sees it right below me.
Because your brain and Einstein's relativity, it automatically corrects for the motion to create a stable image. Einstein says, the shoe is below you, so the physics must explain why it's below you. The judge says, no, the shoe appears below you because you're ignoring the time delay. The real shoe is behind you.
So we built an entire branch of physics relativity to describe the behavior of the ghost shoe instead of the real foot.
That's the core accusation, that we're describing the optical illusion, not the mechanical reality. We confuse the photograph, which has perspective and time lag, with the design plan, which is instantaneous.
If this is true, though, I mean, this is massive. We have experiments that prove relativity, right? What about the Michelson-Morley experiment? That's the bedrock. It proved there was no ether, no medium for light.
And this is where the deep dive really gets into detective territory. The sources argue that Michelson-Morley, the most famous null result in history, was actually a botched experiment.
Botched how? They messed up the math.
No, they messed up the hunting logic.
Hunting logic, like duck hunting.
Exactly. Deflection shooting.
Okay, remind us quickly what Michelson and Morley actually did.
They built an interferometer. So they split a beam of light, sent it down 2 different arms at right angles, bounced it off mirrors, and brought it back together. The idea was if the Earth is moving through some kind of ether, the wind should make one beam take longer than the other.
And they found nothing. The beams came back at the same time. No wind.
Which led Einstein to say, there is no wind. The speed of light is constant for everyone, no matter how they move.
But our sources say they missed something.
They say they ignored the fact that the mirrors were moving.
But the mirrors were bolted to the table.
And the table was on Earth, which is moving at 30 kilometers per second around the sun.
Right. The prosecutor's grid mistake all over again, thinking the floor is static.
So imagine you're trying to shoot a laser at a mirror that is moving sideways at 30 kilometers a second. If you aim straight at where the mirror is now, what happens?
By the time the light gets there, the mirror has moved. You miss.
Exactly. To hit a moving target, you have to lead it. You have to aim ahead. The source argues that Michelson and Morley treated the light like it was in a static lab. They didn't account for the drift.
Okay, but the light obviously did hit the mirrors. The experiment worked. They got a result.
The light hit, yes. But the source argues that because of the drift, the light didn't hit the center of the mirrors. And crucially, when the light bounced back, the detector had also moved.
So the beams aren't meeting up where they're supposed to.
They aren't meeting at the geometric focal point they calculated for a stationary system. They're meeting at a drifted point. The source claims they were just looking at a blurred image. They expected a specific pattern based on a design plan world, didn't see it, and concluded no ether.
But the source says they should have concluded.
We are moving and we're looking at a deflection.
That puts the null result in a completely different light. It wasn't that the ether didn't exist. It's that they were bad hunters. They didn't lead the target.
And because they didn't lead the target, they invented a whole theory, relativity, that says the target isn't moving relative to you. They sort of shrunk the universe to fit the fact that they aimed straight and still hit something.
This feels like gaslighting on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
You didn't miss, the universe just warped so you would hit.
That is a very uncharitable way to put it, but yes, that's the essence of the critique. The source suggests we invented shrinking rulers and slowing clocks to explain away a simple mechanical targeting error.
So if we strip all this away, if we stop using the pilot's distorted map and start using the judge's calculations, what are we left with? If space isn't bending, what is it?
The source proposes a redefinition of the vacuum. They say the vacuum isn't empty space, it is a medium of time.
A medium of time? Unpack that. That sounds almost mystical.
It's surprisingly physical. They use the sparkler analogy, you know, the fireworks.
Writing your name in the air with a sparkler.
Right. Imagine you're running while holding a sparkler. You leave a trail of light behind you. That light doesn't stick to the stick. The moment the light is born, it's placed in the medium. It just stays there. And you, the runner, you move away from it.
So I'm running away from the light that I just created.
Exactly. You are swimming through the electromagnetic field. The judge's perspective says we have to calculate our own swimming speed. We have to know how fast we're moving away from the light we just emitted to understand what we're seeing.
Which implies that light has an absolute position in the field and we're just passing through it.
Yes. And this brings up a concept they call complex space. It gets a bit math-heavy, but the gist is simple. Use the real axis for position and the imaginary axis for the medium for time.
I remember imaginary numbers from high school. The square root of -1. I always thought they were just, abstract tricks.
Well, it sounds abstract, but in this context, it just means depth. It allows you to calculate the geometry of that ghost shoe without needing time itself to warp. You don't need clocks to slow down. You just need to acknowledge you're looking through a deep medium.
It effectively replaces time dilation with signal delay.
Correct. No magic, just mechanics.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here. I can't let this slide. My GPS works. The satellites use relativity calculations to keep me on the road. If this judge theory is right, why are we all driving into rivers?
That is the #1 counter-argument. And the source addresses it. They call relativity a functional user interface.
Like the radar screen.
Exactly. The radar screen works. It gets the pilot home. GPS works because we've calibrated the clocks to match the formula. We have effectively forced the clocks to sync up with the distorted map.
So we're using a weird warped ruler, but we've learned to read the warped ruler so well that we get the right answer anyway.
Yes. But the argument is that while it works for navigation, it fails for explanation. It stops us from understanding what gravity actually is or how quantum mechanics fits in. It's like trying to understand the geology of Antarctica using only that stretched out Mercator map.
You can navigate the coastline, but you'll never understand the continent's true shape.
Exactly. We're optimizing for the interface, not the code.
That's the double lie the source warns about.
Yes. Are we confusing the design plan, the mathematical existence with the photograph, the optical reality? And then are we lying to ourselves about which one is actually real?
We think the photo is the plan. We think the selfie is the person.
Yes. And if we acknowledge that space has a depth of time, does the magic of relativity just vanish? Does the bending of space-time just resolve into simple mechanical geometry?
It really makes you look at the world differently. I mean, looking at you right now,
You're not seeing me. You're seeing a ghost of me from a nanosecond ago.
and if I were running past you at light speed,
My image would be distorted, rotated, and lagging miles behind my actual body. And standard physics would say, look, his body rotated, his time slowed down. The judge would just say, no, his body is fine. You're just looking at old news.
it's a shift from a magical universe to a mechanical one. A universe where the speed limit isn't about time stopping. It's just about how fast information can swim through the medium.
So the challenge for you listening today is to try and see the judge's map. It's hard to do because our brains are all wired to be pilots. We want to be the center of everything.
It's an ego check. We aren't the center. We're just swimmers in the field.
Next time you look up at a star, or even just a street lamp, remember, you are calculating a history. You are navigating a 3D collage of the past.
And maybe, just maybe, the universe is a lot simpler than we've been told if we just learn to account for the lag.
Keep calculating those delays.
Thanks for diving in with us.